This evening, I have a wonderful guest by name Oluwarotimi, and today we'll be talking about the God factor, the place of God in success. What's your view or what's your opinion about that topic when you hear about the God factor, the place of God in success?
Answering your question that says the place of God in success. As human being, we all have something we believe in. By virtue of that fact, I would like to state this. The Holy Read says that I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. That means that as much as we are, there is nothing that we can achieve, and we may not be able to go as far as we're created to go if the God factor is not in place. So as much as possible, a songwriter even sang that all I have is what you gave me, all I am is what you made me. So as much as possible, God is the center point. A man can actually, we've seen cases of people becoming multi-billionaires in their early 20s or early 30s, and before you know it, unfortunately, they pass on due to one thing or the other. Not because of anything, but sometimes it could have been because of some powers that be or some things that's come to destroy or to make their shining sun to actually dim at its prime. So as much as possible, God is the center point, and to truly be successful, everyone needs that God factor.
If I'm hardworking, I'm diligent, and there's also a place in the Holy Book that talk about say that a man that is diligent in his business will stand before kings, will not stand before men. So how can we balance being diligent in business and that place of God?
As much as possible, um, whatever faith we belong to, whatever we claim to believe in, anyone and everyone knows that it is necessary to be diligent. In the conventional space, or let me say in the colloquial term, they said the man that will not work should not eat. So that means it's imperative and important for anyone and for everyone that truly desire to be successful to be diligent. And based on my belief as well, I would like to say this, that we're meant to understand that say thou a man diligent in his business, he will not stand before kings, but before men, but will stand before kings. So as much as possible, we have seen cases of people who are the humblest as of backgrounds, who today are standing tall, all because over time, on a continuous basis, they've actually exhibit the expected diligence that has taken them to heights that they can even say they've conceived it, or they could ever imagine they'll become that, because they were diligent, they were committed to whatever it is at every given point in time they find to do. At least they've actually reached the peak, they've actually gone that far. So as much as possible, diligence is something that cannot be excused for anyone who truly wants to be successful. So a diligent man, coupled with the God factor that we're talking about here today, those two parameters are some of the key characteristics needed for anyone to be successful.
So diligence has its own place. The God factor is another that has to be balanced together. So how can we not balance the two together? How can we balance the two together? Because so some may have this knowledge that God alone is enough. So I will pray in the morning, I will pray in the night, I will pray in the evening. I will not go out to do any work. I will just keep on praying, and believe that that success or that breakthrough is going to come. How can we balance the place of God and diligence in achieving success in life?
Okay, thank you for that question. Balancing the place of God and the place of diligence in attaining or achieving success in life. Now, they said 6 o'clock, at least using the clock as an illustration. So people have actually talked about the fact of 6 o'clock students, 6 o'clock workers, or whatever the case may be. Now, if you look at that, the arm of the clock, that means the shorter hand is on the 6, the longer hand is on the 12 side of the clock. So in all of this, it shows that there is a place of God. There's a role that God will play. There's a role that man will play. And equally, we're created as free moral agents. That means whatever you want to do, you want to be good, you want to be kind, you want to be the other hand, or the other, whatever the other thing could be, you have the right, you have the choice to actually choose whatever you want to do with your life. So as much as possible, God is always ready. The God factor we're talking about today is always available. The question is, am I playing my part? Are you playing your part? Are we playing our part to key in? It's just giving an illustration of somebody being given a blank check. As in, write anything you want on this check, take it to the bank and withdraw. The money is yours. Fine. The opportunity is there to turn the story of this person around for good. He has written the amount. The account of the person issuing the check is adequately funded to cover any amount the person the check was issued to write on it. But unfortunately, unluckily, the person who is supposed to be the expected beneficiary begin to come up with the excuse, not willing to play his own part. It is raining. I don't like the face of those people in that bank. I don't like this. I'm sorry for this example, but as much as possible, the opportunity is there. Play your own part and get the resources. So in all of this, as human, we have a role to play. God has his role to play. A lot of people are supposed to be shining light and stars and, legends and become men of substance across the globe. But because of the lack of diligence, lack of commitment, or not playing their part as they ought to, they end up becoming riffraff, they end up becoming mediocre, they end up just playing on the average, or like some people will say, they are local champion, not global champion. So the place of God is standard, is cannot be debated. The place of man, of we being diligent, is equally important. So they work pari passu, they work hand in hand. God plays his part, we play our parts, and collectively, the divine purpose of God for each and every person, as unique and different as we are, will come to pass.
So in conclusion, what you have to say about that is that we all have a place in who we become in life. So we are a product of whatever we have, the decisions we have made, what you have allowed, the laziness we have allowed, the diligence we have allowed. So we are a product of all those decisions. So there is no that assumption, that belief that like God favors some people, or some people are better than some people. Our output is as a result of our inputs. So is that one is clear? And I want to now look at it in this other dimension. So there are two students, they read wonderfully, but one is succeeding excellently than the other. And the other is like, wow, I'm still reading. Why is it that I'm not passing? And I'm reading, I'm praying to God. So hard work is there, diligence is there, but yeah, that success is not coming. What's your advice for a student like that? Probably even someone that is even working in the office, I'll do everything, but yet I'm not getting the promotion. And I will still pray to God, I will still fast, I will do everything, but that breakthrough is not coming.
Okay, thanks for this question. As mentioned earlier, that we are created as a free moral agents. I also want us to know, or just to remind us, I want to believe some of us already know, that there is the spiritual end or the spiritual angle to anything and everything we are seeing happening around us today, locally, nationally, or globally. There is always a spiritual angle to it. So now that a student has read so well, has prepared so well, has burned the midnight oil, as the case may be, as even an employee has gone the extra mile, is outstanding. But like you said, he's not being promoted. The student is not passing his exam. So in all of this, permit me to say this, that somebody said this, and I quote, that stress comes from trying to do it all on our own. Peace comes from putting it all in God's hand. I repeat, somebody says stress comes from trying to do it all on our own, and peace comes from putting it all in God's hands. Now, back to the question. Sometimes in life, some things happen just for God to prove that He is God. Permit me to give this example of somebody in the Holy Writ, that by all standard or by all parameter is supposed to excel. But just because of some circumstances, the name of the person is Jabez. He was not succeeding. But by the time God came into the picture, the story changed. So sometimes people are passing through challenges because those seasons for the students or for the employee or for whosoever it is that is doing everything and it's like he's not jiving, it's not coming together. It's a season, is a phase. And if indeed God is in that situation, they normally say in the common parlance that what there is always light at the end of the tunnel. There will only be light at the end of the tunnel that there is God. A lot of tunnel, it will be dark, even darker at the end of that tunnel if God is not in the picture. So sometimes some of those things happen to one, either to test the person, two, either to prepare the person for a greater challenge or a greater role or a greater platform. Because sometimes in life, some of the things that we are passing through is not palatable, is not desirable, it's not something that anybody would expect to happen to him or her. But be rest assured, if it's God preparing that person, such that when he finally arrives at that destination, anybody and everybody that hears the story will come out boldly and say, it could have only been God. Such that what? The glory, the honor, the adoration for that student or the employee will be given to God. I know this is God, and it's not because of his qualification, it's not because of his family background, it's not because of his expertise or his knowledge, but God was working things out. Permit me to use the example of Joseph. The guy went through a lot of terrible, horrible things that in our conventional space today, in our world today, I'm not sure anybody can actually, without the help of God, pass through such and still remain for those years and be able to get there. By the time such an individual gets to the stage or the place God is preparing him for, and he stands on a podium to advise or to talk, and he shares the experience, it will validate that truly God is in existence and God's hand is in this. Thank you.
Thank you. So from what you have said, I can say that there is no story, no success without story. Most of the time we see people, we hear about people's success, but we don't actually know about their stories. And in their stories, we that's where the failure story actually come into place. Another thing from what you have said I pick up is that our story differs because our purpose differs. So what we are created for in this life, they are different. That's why we see Taya and Kende, their purpose, their life journey will be very different because we are all created differently for different purpose. So we are not supposed to compare ourselves. And no matter the situation, just like you have said, some is for tech, some is for preparation for the glory ahead. So whatever the situation, whatever you're passing through, let's rely on God, let's depend on God, knowing fully well that He can actually solve that situation for us. For my other thing from what to say is talk about stress and peace. That by the time we put everything in the hand of God, we have peace. But when we are trying to struggle, we put everything in our hand, it gives us stress and keep on struggling and struggling without any result, without any results. And it's very important for us also to know that we are a resource in the hand of God who gives the resources. So we are a resource in the hand of God who give the resources. And it is when He directs us, it is in that resources that we actually have find success in life. Before this session, I was in a session and the coach was talking about how he has labored for 8 years making efforts, trying a lot of things, and he could not achieve success. But within 2 years, the success changed. And no people were just looking at this man is reading, but nobody understand the 8 years where he was laboring, where there was nothing to show forth for all the labor. But within 2 years, his story changed and it started making impacts. So we all have different stories because we have different purposes in life. And it's very important for us to focus on the manufacturer of our life, for him to direct us and not to compare ourselves with any other. For illustrations, can you give us a personal illustration where we want to get a personal story? Give us a personal illustration where you can say that this is really God, and also where you can see that this is as a result of hard work.
This is a hot seat question. Okay, let me come to something very recent. Okay, this is really good. That's one question, and this is as a result of hard work. But like the explanation I gave, sometimes it's not by hard work. People normally say that if it is by hard work, the people that are earning the biggest salary should be those pushing trucks, should be those doing menial job. So sometimes my sister or everyone listening is actually not by hard work. Oh. Now only God, and God wins. So it's by God's grace. So the example I would like to give, recently I had a switch of, will I say, fame where I work. And from the beginning till the end, I can say it was God. It's not like I said, it's not by diligence. Let's downplay. I'm not downplaying it completely, but I'm just saying in this instance now, it's not by diligence, certification, experience, expertise, or exposure. No, it was only God. Such that, it all happened as in the way it happened and the processes and the manifestations God did in the course of changing that role to getting the job as in the new place. I can say, no, God was the one doing this, because there are times, instances whereby I didn't envisage something would happen. But when God is leading us sometimes, every time, not sometimes now, it's good for us to heed those leading. It could be a silent, small voice, God telling you to do this. Please obey. And I always like to say this, that to really enjoy the God factor in everything and anything, to the natural mind, to the logical man, it might not sound reasonable. It might not sound logical. Like people will say that don't put all your eggs in one basket. But if you truly want to enjoy the God basket, the God factor, put all your eggs in one basket, put that basket in God's hand, and watch God let things play out. So like I was making reference to the change of job that I got recently, it was God from the beginning to the end. Definitely, God will use people, which obviously God did. But I can still attest to the fact that the processes and some other things that happened, which I may not be able to share here, I can say God made it happen. Now, for the case of saying diligence, where because we say diligence is important and God factor, the role of God too, cannot be overemphasized or cannot be downplayed. as much as God will play a role, we also need to play our parts, because you cannot. The Bible says, if the foundation be destroyed, what shall the righteous do? Now, if you that need to be helped, like I always give an example of, if you are an adult and you love children and children love you, when you are coming and you bought items for those kids, is the child that embraces you that you will first give to, even though you might end up giving to every other person. But if that child that first embraces you is the one you will give to. So that means that child has played his part in wanting to receive, and the person too, the adult, will equally now play his part of saying, thank you for showing me love. Take this as a means of appreciation. Now, in all of this, diligence is important, because saying changing job or changing career sometimes, if you don't have what it takes, every employer today will need somebody that can add value. And they said the certificate can get you the job, like somebody quotes, but your competence and character most times is what will keep you on that job. So the place of diligence is such that where you are coming from, if you have not learned it very well, if you have not done it diligently, then I'm sorry, nobody will be willing to even accommodate you. Even when you go and you are being assessed for the role, there will be lapses, there will be shortcomings that you may not be able to say, no, this is not a good fit for this role. And you be so equally for the students. A student that possibly is in junior secondary school or in senior secondary school and is having the ambition of becoming an architect. And in secondary school, he's saying that why should I learn technical drawing if that's the name is still being called today? And he doesn't learn it, but he loves mathematics, he loves other subjects. But unfortunately for that student, whether architecture or engineering as the case may be, the technical drawing is something very critical that will help him. So that means if he had not been diligent enough to learn those things at that stage of his life, when the need do not come for him to use it, my sister, God will still want to help, but he will now need to do double the efforts to be able to take ownership of the help of everything that God has prepared for him. So in life, diligence is very key. God will do his bit, but as human being, our part is to be diligent, is to learn, is to give our best shot. Do it as if this is all that matters now, because that may be what will take you to the next best place God is preparing for you. Thank you.
No good thing comes easily. Whatever you desire that is good, you have to go for it, and there is a price to be paid for it. And it's only those people that actually pay that price that can actually win that award. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have any other contribution.
Okay, thank you. As much as possible, I have other contribution. Let me start with this. Somebody said, and I quote, he said, never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. Like I made reference to the case of Joseph. Pardon me or permit me for those on this call who are of a different faith. As much as possible, he said, never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. That means they will always say in the conventional or in the colloquial word that only God knows tomorrow, which is true. We only know this moment. We don't know what will happen in the next second. So as much as possible, trusting an unknown future to a known God is a guarantee, like he made example of putting all your eggs in one basket and handing that basket into God's hand. So another thing I would like to mention is that as much as possible, anybody and everybody can become somebody to be reckoned with, to be reputed with the help of God. And that, so somebody now said is that all of us start from zero. We take the right decision and become a hero. Let me repeat that statement. He said, all of us start from zero. We take the right decision and become a hero. The right decision in this case is that having the consciousness and always knowing that God should be respected, God should be accorded the relevance, the position, his rightful position in everything and anything, then we will be able to become a hero. Check the history, check the track record of a majority of people today that we are saying they are renowned, either in those who are renowned and got into place of authority in the political space in the right way. We can say that at least they came from a humble beginning, but because of their consistency and because of the hand of God, where they are today, 20, 50 years ago, if somebody see them and say they will be there, they will even contest and say, you are just trying to deceive me or sweet talk me. So the place of God is very important. Everybody becoming a hero today and God there in the right place, please check the record. God has a role to play. Circumstances, fine. Human people could have played a role, fine. But God is the person behind the curtain, behind the scene, making those things to work together to place that person or to make that person get to wherever he or she is today. Now, the next thing I want to share is that as much as possible, we are talking about God factor today. So if we have a pen, I would love us to write that factor, because I cannot come here and be explaining. God is too big, he's too great, he's too glorious for somebody to come here in this few time or in this my only two knowledge I claim to have to come and explain God. So it's something beyond somebody to come and explain within this short time. Now, the factor in this God factor we're talking today, let's write that factor, will I say vertically, FACTOR. The F for the God factor, because like somebody taking paracetamol or Panadol, before you went to the pharmaceutical store to buy that paracetamol or Panadol or whatever the drug or medicine you went to purchase, you add some level of faith or conviction or believe that that drug will work to heal the headache or whatever the pain you are feeling. So that means there is a faith in that drug even before you went to buy it. Equally, kids that you take up and you throw them in the air and you catch them, those kids believe that no, now daddy or mommy will always do the best thing for me. So even if you throw them so far or to play with them in any manner, they know you will still care for them. So now, bringing it to the God factor, you should have faith in God. If you can have faith in a medical device or the drug or the medicine to cure an ailment, then there should be a faith in the God you want him to play things or make things work in your favor. That's the A factor. The A factor now is that, as much as possible, the person that is visiting from a pharmaceutical store, let me continue in line of that drug, to go and purchase a drug or a medicine, as acknowledge the fact that he or she has a pain or he or she has a medical condition that needed to be attended to. So that means there's some level of acknowledgement and acceptance, and equally an appreciation of the producers of that medicine. Because you always say, this is the brand I want. If you don't have this brand, you will change store, you will go to the next place that can actually give you what you want. That means you acknowledge, the person acknowledge that he or she has an ailment, and two, accepts the fact that, okay, I need to go get it, and appreciate the producer of that drug to help cure the ailment. Like today, so people believe that it's only this institution that can actually trade with, work with, or let's come to the financial sector that can actually bank with, because they have the history, they have the reputation, they have a lot of parameters. So they have confidence and faith, and they appreciate that institution. So now, bringing it to the God factor, for God to truly work in an individual, you must accept that God exists. We said earlier that we should not be afraid to trust an unknown feature to a known God. That God exists. You need to accept that fact and acknowledge the fact that it's only this God that can help you solve your problem. Like you acknowledge the fact that taking paracetamol or Panadol can help you cure headache. It should also acknowledge the fact that only God can help you, bring you solution. Even though somebody who has labored for years, he ought to have been promoted. This guy is reading, he knows it, he will teach everybody in class. But come exam, the guy will fail, as in, or something missing scripts, or somebody results to be exchanged. So that means there's a need for a God factor. You need to accept that only God, though, all else has failed. Hard work has failed. Diligence has failed. Resources has been, family background or connection has failed. Even those that want to get job, they're not getting. So it's only the God factor. Acknowledge that God factor is the only one that can help in this situation. So acknowledge, accept, and appreciate that God can do all things. It's something that I said that what God cannot do, does not exist. Thank you. So now F is for faith in God. A is acknowledge, accept, and appreciate God. C is what? There is a conduct, a character, and a competence. Bring that to this drug we're talking about. In production of medical equipment or drugs, like even the COVID-19 that the Director General of NAFDAC was talking about, the procedures or things they need to do, a number of steps to build COVID-19 in Nigeria. So that means there's a conduct. And the competence of the professionals that will be engaged to even produce that drug should be top notch. That means we believe that these ones are sound and have the expertise to get this job done. So that means we consider the conduct, their competence, and equally, it can't be somebody who doesn't have character. Like we're talking about the fact that certificate can get you the job. Character and competence sometimes is what, including the God factor, we keep an individual on the job. Some people today go so far just because of a recommendation that this person is kind, is nice. Just it could be a cleaner, it could be a driver, and they are where they are today just because they have a good character. So now, in the God factor, the faith in God, acceptance, acknowledgement, and appreciate that God, you want Him to help you. Then equally, your conduct, your character, and your competence has to be intact. If you really want God to help you, it's not a matter of hand of God and leg of man. I know a man will have a role to play, but if he's absolutely trusting in God, then you need to display that competence, that you don't want to go and be bootlicking or be begging somebody when you know the job. So if you truly know there is a God and you know that job, then your competence will speak to you and God will back it up by promoting or elevating you and making sense. So now the T factor, we've talked about the fact that buying a medical drug, this and this, you trust the producer of the drug, you believe that the drug can actually cure the illness. So that trust is equally important because in the marketing space, they normally say that what? You don't buy from people. So to say, you first believe in someone before you buy from the person. Like in the financial sector today, I'm sorry for always making reference to financial sector. People are banking with some institutions today because they believe, they trust that even if the economy shake, even if the economy is having challenges, some institutions in this country today will remain stable, will remain solid and will be standing. So that means they trust the competence, the history, the institution, the institution way of doing things so much that they believe these are people I can keep my resources and my wealth with. So that trust in God is important. We said by faith in God. We talked about accept and acknowledge and appreciate God. Then we said your conduct, your character and competence is important. Then T is for trust. Then as much as possible, as parents in the house, let me give you this example, or parents in the house, or even the medical drug we're talking about. When you buy the drug, they will not give you a prescription that use one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. And that means if an individual that is seeking to be healed obey religiously, adhere to those prescriptions, the person will get healed by virtue of taking those medications. So So now that means if a human being will give you an instruction because you want to be healed, because you want to be relieved of the pain, you adhere to the instruction. How much more the God factor you want to play in. So that means if he say do this, it's not a matter of God, this is not convenient, so sorry, I can't do. Or God, I'm human. To hear is human, this is divine. That is, sorry to say, the story for the gods is excuse making. So if we as mortal men can obey the prescription of medical doctors who are equally men like us who produce the drug, how much more the supreme being that we equally need to obey and adhere to his commandment. Now, the last thing there, we'll talk about faith in God. A, accept, acknowledge, and appreciate God. Then C, your conduct, your character, and your competence is equally important in all of this. We know God will now back it up. Now, the T is to trust in God. Then the O is to obey him unconditionally. Then the last thing is what? Rejoice evermore. Somebody said that don't let the world change your smile, but let your smile change the world. Sometimes some people are dead. They have died before they are dead. I don't know how sorry, permit me or pardon me for the expression now. That means sometimes people, the challenge or the evil has not happened. Give an instance of somebody who is sitting beside an individual who has cough. So the person is coughing and say, don't let. So because of the consciousness or because of that fear factor, give it or take it, the world is a magnetic space. The person can find him or herself after alerting from the boss, or even while seeing the boss, he starts showing signs of actually coughing as well. So as much as possible, you don't let the world change your smile, but let your smile change the world. Somebody said it. So the only book made us will know that well, you should rejoice evermore. That means despite everything that's happened or that is happening, as Nigeria is today, where we are, that we are a lot of challenges that has bedeviled the country or that we are experiencing everywhere. It's equally important that in the midst of these challenges we are facing, some people are making legitimate words. Some people are actually doing great, mighty, and awesome things that are impacting life globally. So, despite the challenges, despite the shortcomings, or despite the issues we might be having, it's important for us to want to rejoice evermore. That joy, is an internal thing. It's not by virtue of the wealth. They said that wealth can buy a house, cannot buy a home. Some people have the wealth, have the connection, have the network, but they don't have the joy because what that God factor is missing. So I want to believe for now that some of the additional comments or contribution I would love to add. Thank you.
Thank So to end this session, I will take a part from this book, my own. I authored this year, early this year, and there's a part there that talks on dependence on God. So because the book was written using the example of the womb, so from the womb, the fetus identifies the voice of his mother. The ability to identify the voice of God early in life makes the journey easy. There's a place of God in every woman endeavor. It is only God that can lead in the right way. God is our maker, and there must be total dependence on Him in our journey to greatness. You need total dependence so that the gifts and talents He has deposited in our lives can be used in the way and manner He wants it. When you purchase something precious but refuse to follow the manufacturer manual to guide you on how to use the precious item, you either get tired using the item or not use it at all. We are created by God, and He is the only one that knows the way we need to follow. And that is why it is very important to follow Him for direction in life. And a life that follow Him will experience direction and will not struggle in life. And this is like a summary of our discussion so far. I want to appreciate everyone that have joined us. And it's very important for us to know that there is a place of God in success. And also, when we work with that factor, it makes the journey easy and also deliver us from stress and also from lack of direction. Thank you very much for joining us in this session. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your day. Bye.